Greetings and salutations. I'm the fallen angel Christopher Daniels.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here, to tell you, deliver a very nice, very evil message, if you will.
This is NXT superstar Dexter Lumis.
What's up, everybody? It's me, your buddy, your pal, Scott Stanford.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
This is the former intellectual savior of the masses, now known as Aaron Stevens, your NWA third-degree national champion.
This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model, and you are listening to Greg Morgan with Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I want to tell you, Greg, your buddy Howie, also known as Wheezy, as you call him, he told me all about your channel. I'm here to tell everybody that I've seen it, I've watched it, I've looked at it. I went down the rabbit hole and I couldn't get out of it. It was so good.
Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
Watch them 5 times a piece. That's right, I said 5 times a piece. Do it. I know you've been a fan for like 40 years. I've only been doing it for 30, so I guess we're fans together there for 10 of it. Do it.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Do it!
Good Mic Work is the place to be for all your wrestling information, guaranteed.
The best wrestling content is right here at Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
Subscribe, share, love, like, poke, whatever you need to do.
If you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
Love that, Danhausen, love that Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Do it now.
You're welcome.
What's going on, guys? Once again, and welcome to your WWE Monday Night Raw review for December 7th, 2020. And I got to tell you, man, this was not a wonderful show. Many people were complaining about the length of it, how it was dragging out. It felt largely skippable to a big degree. Not too much more has really been set up for TLC that we already didn't know. And, it was just packed full of just replays and nonsense and couple of good matches, but overall an extremely skippable Raw. So we'll see how many people are interested in coming over to the stream tonight and hearing about Monday Night Raw. It makes it even worse when it's coming off the heels of such a great pay-per-view last night. I mean, Wargames was phenomenal. So having to sit through now 3 hours of bullshit was kind of hard to do after such a wonderful night of wrestling last night, but it's what we must do here on the channel, and now we're here to talk about it. And like I said, not too much to get into in terms of TLC as far as what we didn't already know, but the card is coming together, and we're starting to see that take shape and finishing out the year of 2020. So we'll be going through the Raw results here bit by bit. I've got a couple of other things to get into as well. Some news on Becky Lynch and Seth. I wanted to mention the Keith Lee documentary, The Tribute to the Troops, a couple of scheduling announcements for you in terms of this week's Winged Eagle, and a couple of Patreon-sponsored videos that are currently being worked on and almost done, and a couple of special episodes and a year-end Q&A. So we got all sorts of stuff to get into tonight. I probably won't keep it a very long stream, depending on how the audience is. If people want to hang out and have fun, we'll do that. Otherwise, I'll wrap up the Raw results and get out of here. I've been up, I think, 5 times this week, doing a lot of streams last Monday and Wednesday and Friday and last night, and of course tonight. So it's been a long week of streams, and we got a lot more to come in the month of December. So we'll kick back. First of all, let me know all your thoughts in the comments here, those of you who are here already, on what you thought of Raw tonight, what you would grade it. I got a couple in here already, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, not very good. Let me do a sound check. All right, seems low. Is the volume low? I think we're good. Anyway, so yeah, other than the TLC stuff, it's really not, that eventful of a Raw. The Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt stuff was good. I thought the finish of the main event was very fun. Although, help me out, did anybody win that? Was that a no contest when Bray turned into the Fiend and attacked Randy Orton with the claw? Did the referee call for the bell there, or did the show just go off the air? I don't even know who won the main event. That's how much of a clusterfuck this Monday Night Raw was. A lot of people were ripping it apart over on the Twitter, which was pretty funny. Zane G, appreciate the buck. What's going on, man? Good to see you, Deshaun Robinson as well, and JL, Big J, Shanus Maximus, Marty Khan, Big Leg, JJ Leg, excuse me, Big Leg. 10 out of 10, only because I'm here to review it. Well, that's very kind of you. Hopefully we can make Raw a 10 out of 10. I've been thinking about doing a couple of more reactions. Maybe I'll come up here this month in December and react to a Raw like I used to. Toying with the idea of reacting to TLC and doing some other fun things this month. But it's definitely a full month of videos here on the channel. So stay tuned. One thing I wanted to mention prior to getting to the Raw stuff is if you have not listened or seen my NXT Wargames review from last night, please check it out on the channel. It's got very low traffic on it, one of the lowest videos I've ever done, but it was only an hour long. We had a great time reviewing it, and the show was amazing. So if you haven't checked that out, please go over to that video and show it some love. Smash the thumbs up button in here as well, and I'd appreciate it. And last night was just incredible. Man, what a night. So much fun, and have to turn around and watch this nonsense tonight. It was annoying. Also want to send out a congratulations to Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Becky gave birth to their brand new baby today. I believe it's a baby girl, I think, and they've named it Rue, which you can't make a decent homemade mac and cheese without it, so it's very important, and very happy for the couple. And, you know, who knows? I mean, shit. I was thinking about the women's division tonight on Raw when Asuka was working with Shayna, and I'm like, based on all these matches that Asuka has had with Shayna, like in tag teams and now this one-on-one match on Raw, unless they call someone up from NXT like an Io Shirai or a Rhea Ripley, I don't see any other possible option for Asuka at WrestleMania other than Charlotte, because she'll be coming back. Or maybe Becky. You know, it's probably going to be one of them at this point. They're certainly not going to build Shayna for that now, I don't think. She won the Royal Rumble last year, fell short in the title match. Don't see them rehashing that again with Asuka, especially since they have so much to do with each other currently on TV, and the tag team title match for TLC with Asuka and Lana taking on Shayna and Nia is official, and that'll be happening as well. So made me think, you know, now that Becky has given birth, we'll see if she comes back or not. If she takes a year off, whatever she wants to do, I support it, but I suppose it is plausible if you work your ass off, you could be ready to go by April. So we shall see. But congrats to them. Very happy for them, and that's awesome. One thing I did not mention last night is that I watched the Keith Lee WWE 24 documentary. It was released yesterday, and I watched it prior to Wargames. And I thought it was incredible. One of the better ones they've done. I say that every time they release one of these things, but if you have not seen that, it's definitely worth a watch, and really takes you into Keith Lee's life and makes you even root even harder for him, because I feel like, you know, his run so far on the main roster has been extremely underwhelming when he was such a dominant force in NXT. They don't seem like they want to end any of his matches clean. Everything has got interference. Everything is a DQ. They literally did that they do with everybody. They bring them up to the main roster with no plan. And that is a recipe for disaster. Just ask Shinsuke Nakamura. Just ask Bobby Roode. Just ask any number of former NXT champions that have come up and done absolute dick on the main roster. So watching something like that even makes me more mad that they haven't really given this guy opportunity. I mean, Jesus Christ, he has worked his ass off for this, and he deserves the strap one day. So if you've not seen the documentary, check it out. It's awesome. I did not watch a minute of the Tribute to the Troops show that was on last night. I haven't watched one of those in years. I very, very much support and appreciate the troops, each and every one of them that risk their lives. But these WWE tribute shows, to me, have always felt more like them patting themselves on the back than actually tributing the troops. And the fact that this shit was on Fox with country music and everything just was not my cup of tea. But it looks like, from the looks of it, that it was probably one of the better shows because they were able to do it all right there in the Amway Center. Nobody had to travel. They didn't have to do it some weird outdoor facility or military compound or something like that, or do it overseas like in Iraq like they used to do. You know, now I think they've been running it in Texas and various places, but having it, just being able to do it right there in the Thunderdome made all of the talent available. You know, maybe it was a decent show, but I did not see any of it, so you guys can let me know how that was. I think I watched the first one out of curiosity. I was very surprised that they were going to set up a ring in Iraq in the middle of a war and do a wrestling show. I was interested in that. I think that was the one that, like, Austin dressed as Santa and stunned Vince or some shit like that. That's the only one I remember ever watching. Never watched one again. Just no interest in them. But hopefully it was a good time for the troops, even though there weren't any troops there this time due to COVID. And let me know if the show was any good or not. Didn't catch it. Other than that, a couple of scheduling notes for you. I want to shout out, I don't think he's in here yet, but if Barry shows up in the chat, I am working on a Patreon-sponsored review for him. I'll be finishing that up next week. I'll have a definite date for that in just a couple of days. I'll put it up on social media or something, and that one's going to be really fun on the Divas Undressed show from 2002. And just got another request in today for a live stream on my top 10 favorite tag teams of all time. So that'll come one night. I'll give you guys a date on that as well. That'll just be a live stream. We'll do that one night this month prior to Christmas. And I also have a fun stream of me drinking some Broken Skull IPA and opening up some WCW trading cards planned. One other special video planned as well, plus all of my regularly scheduled live streams and podcasts. This month's going to be loaded, so please hang out. Please subscribe if you've not yet already. And it should be a fun December to close out the show. And I also wanted to make one more final announcement on this Saturday's Winged Eagle podcast. It will be back up on Saturday. I skipped this past week because we had winter is coming. We had Wargames. We had so much going on, in the middle and the end of the week. The podcast was kind of in the way, so I foregoed it just to do a SmackDown review, an AEW review, and a Wargames review instead. We'll be back up to the Winged Eagle this coming Saturday, but I'm going to change the time, do it a little bit later, do it a little bit more closer to prime time. We're going to go up at 8 p.m. on the East Coast, 5 p.m. here on the West Coast. So that'll be the new time, just 2 hours later than it normally is on Saturday. So put that in your memos. Links will be up all during the week, so just keep that in mind. Yes, thank you for that, JJ. I did see the Slammies are coming back. Again, something I have very little interest in. Every time they do these Slammies in modern times, they suck, and they're usually combined with a Monday Night Raw, which these days, considering Monday Night Raw is largely 3 hours of nonsense, I have no problem with them adding the Slammies to one of these. But you remember back when I used to pitch the idea of having a December off season, for WWE, even before COVID. I'm like, just send everybody home, let them be with their families for the holidays, nurse their injuries, come back to the beginning of the year fresh. And, you can just run other shit on Mondays during the month of December and then take one of those Mondays and do like an old school Slammies. Yes, talent, we know you have off for the holidays, but you got to come back for one night. We're all going to cram into a banquet hall, just like they did in 86, 87, 96, and 97, and do the Slammies old school like that, where it's an actual banquet, like an actual ceremony. And I think that would be really fun. Get everybody dressed in suits and ties and, eating dinner and the whole deal, and just have fun with it and make it like an old school Slammies. Have two guys brawl with each other. Just don't make it so WWE the way it is now. Make it a little bit old school. I thought that would be fun, but that is a fat chance of ever happening. They're never going to do that shit. And now we've got the Slammies back. And again, did they do it last year? What's the deal with the Slammies been? It feels like they do it sporadically. It feels like they say, let's do it this year. And then another year, like, fuck it. So the fact that there's no consistency here is also annoying, and it's just more nonsense content. So I am not entirely excited for the Slammy Awards at all. Oh, thank you for that. Oh, well, that's smart. I didn't realize that. Okay, that's cool, Deshaun. I was thinking about that too. I think probably one of the biggest thrills for the troops and stuff to have these shows is to be able to interact and to be there and stuff. So the fact that they made the entire Thunderdome, the troops, not bad. Good. Good. Oh, Charlotte won the Rumble, not Shayna. She did? What the fuck happened? How the hell did Shayna get the match? She won the Chamber. That's right. I forgot. Yeah, that's right. She won the Chamber. She choked out everybody, right? Thank you for that. I forget shit all the time. Yeah, so we'll see how the Slammy Awards are. Anyway, that's it all for all the pleasantries here. Let's get into the results of Monday Night Raw. Show opened up with Randy Orton coming out to the ring. Of course, they showed a long recap of everything that took place last week with Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss and all that shit. And he goes on to say a few words about Bray Wyatt. He's got the match with the Fiend, of course, coming up at TLC. And he says, you're messing with the wrong guy. Basically, I don't have to wear a mask to let my dark side out. I can be just as vicious and just as psychotic as you. And he'll be knocking on the Firefly Funhouse door tonight. That was kind of what they were advertising throughout the day, is that Randy Orton was going to crash the Funhouse and go up in there and throw some RKOs on Alexa, or maybe even burn her down, because he did show highlights of how he found Bray Wyatt's weakness last time they feuded and burned it to the ground. So let's hope he doesn't burn cute little Alexa down. Nobody wants a melted Alexa. I sure don't. Bray Wyatt then shows up on the Tron, and he says that Alexa isn't here because Randy was mean to her last week, so she's not going to be around. It's going to be just him. And Randy says, "You don't want to play games with me." And then Bray's like, "Games? I love games." And then they go to this weird, like, kind of Price is Right style game show. I think it was called Let's Get Randy. Let's Get Randy. And Bray is, you know, in the Muscle Man gear, and he's kind of showcasing items and shit like that. They go through that whole charade. That was one of the more entertaining ones because they had a lot of the Funhouse characters. I don't know, it was audience members or some shit. I was barely paying attention, but it was wacky as hell and very fun. And then Orton goes on to challenge Bray Wyatt to a match. He goes, "I have the Fiend at TLC, but I want Bray Wyatt tonight." So Bray Wyatt accepts, says that will be fun, and that's your scheduled main event. Is basically going to be a big match at TLC, except it's going to be regular Bray Wyatt or Funhouse Bray Wyatt against the Fiend. So or against Randy Orton, and then we got the Fiend at TLC. So that'll be coming up in the main event. First in-ring match of the night was Asuka taking on Shayna Baszler. Now, of course, Asuka and Lana are in the middle of these matches. They've already scored, I believe, 2 non-title victories over Shayna and Nia, so you knew 100% that was going to lead to a match at TLC. Now they're going to do the one-on-one matches, and they're doing the same shit with the New Day and the Hurt Business. It's so predictable, it hurts. Because, you know, as soon as they announced Asuka and Shayna, I'm like, I will bet both of my nuts that we get Lana and Nia Jax next week, just like we had Cedric and Xavier last week, and now we had Shelton and Kofi tonight. So same fucking shit. They're going to do that and drag this stuff out. Really strange promo prior to the match with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler at Gorilla, where they're talking about all the things they're going to do to Lana and how they're going to twist her and contort her body to where it doesn't even resemble itself. And Shayna says, you know, her front is going to be her back and her legs are going to be her arms. And then Nia Jax says, so she's going to have boobs on her back. And then Shayna's like, yeah. And then they just go to the ring. That was a real line in a real wrestling show. So they get in the ring. Match starts. We've got Nia Jax attacking Lana on the outside of the ring, but Lana, like, holds her own. She actually turns the tables on Nia Jax. Nia's even got her up in powerbomb position, and I think Lana kind of, like, hurricanrana's out of it and throws Nia Jax into the table. And as Shayna is all watching all this in disbelief transpire, Asuka's able to roll her up in a schoolboy, pin her for the win, and get yet another victory over the tag team champs. So with all of these victories that Asuka and Lana are getting over these two, how in the world are they going to win the titles at TLC? Now, right after that, I think later on, somewhere backstage, it's probably in my notes here, but they make the match for next week official, which we knew. Lana taking on Nia Jax. Lana seems freaked out about that. Asuka even gives her a pep talk saying, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And then she kind of comes face to face with Nia Jax, who vows to rip her apart next week. We'll see if Asuka can be out there to provide a little bit of assistance to Lana next week, and she can put down Nia Jax, giving these two 4 victories over the champs, but then they ultimately maybe drop the match at TLC. I really don't have a need personally to see Asuka and Lana win the tag team titles. I know it's fun because they're so mismatched. I mean, it's like Strowman and Nicholas, these two. So, you know, maybe it can be somewhat entertaining. I'm also not a fan of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax together. I'm not a fan of Nia Jax at all. But their team seems odd and weird, and they were really at odds at first, but they seem to be a little bit more cohesive now. But I don't really care about them as a team either. So if they did put the belts on Asuka and Lana, who fucking cares? Just do it. Whatever. So we'll see where that leads next week, but we get Lana and Nia, and I think Lana has broken the streak of going through the tables, right? So there's no need to do that again. We'll see. We'll see if she survives her encounter with Nia Jax next week. Here's another dumb match. We had Dana Brooke teaming up with Ricochet. Man, I'm so happy for Ricochet. Here's a guy that struggled so hard all over the world, in Japan, the crappy, shitty, boring matches he would have with Will Ospreay that embarrassed the business. Then he goes to WWE and NXT and has an uneventful run, doesn't do anything, doesn't turn any heads, barely makes an impact at all in NXT. And then they bring him to the main roster, and finally he has made it to the big time where he can team with Dana Brooke to take on Retribution. This is what main events are meant for. Matches like this. My God, so happy for Ricochet that he's finally made it. And mixed tag here, teaming up with Dana Brooke, taking on Reckoning and Bisquick. And while they're backstage preparing for their match and talking strategy, Dana's got a shiner, a black guy, I think, from last week. Matt Riddle approaches him, starts getting in their face, pitching his bro nuts. Of course, he is a total nuisance to everybody in the backstage, and they don't really have time for him. Like, we're good, dude. We don't need your bro nuts. We're going to take a pass. We got to keep going. And, so they go and start, doing their preparation elsewhere. So we have the match. Dana Brooke gets the pinfall victory over Reckoning in this, and Ali is mad at her yet again, which is fine with me. First of all, not only is this whole goddamn faction stupid, but Mia Yim's involvement makes no goddamn sense at all. I just mentioned the Keith Lee documentary a minute ago. She's all over that thing. Talking about her boyfriend and stuff. It makes no sense for her to be in this faction that wants to destroy the WWE when her man is there trying to make it in the WWE. Her involvement makes no sense at all. It would have been made much more sense to have Mercedes Martinez in there instead of Reckoning. Now this is 2 weeks in a row that Ali's gotten all pissed at her. So I'm hoping that they just boot her out. I'm hoping they just disband the whole damn faction. But it would be even better if they at least just boot her out of there, and Mia Yim can either go back to NXT or stick around on the main roster. Nothing wrong with that. Just keep her on Raw or some shit. Because it just makes us, it's just annoying when they've acknowledged the relationship between Keith Lee and Reckoning or Mia Yim, and the fact that they don't acknowledge it now. It's one thing to mention it, in documentaries or WWE Network shows or something like that. Kayfabe's broken there on an hourly basis, but they've also mentioned it on TV. They had mixed tags in NXT, didn't they? So like everybody knows this. It's so stupid for her to be a part of it, and maybe WWE has finally realized themselves, just a shade under 6 months into this shit, and they're going to boot her out of there, which is good. Just replace her with somebody else, or just get her out of there to begin with. It was fine when there was multiple women, but now when there's just one woman stuck in there, she has nothing to do unless you make these like stupid mixed tags on Raw. So she doesn't serve a purpose, and it makes no sense at all. So WWE, knock that shit off, please. Today is Pearl Harbor Day. I've been to Pearl Harbor. Just went a couple years ago when I was in Hawaii. Book Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar now. And Brock's, when he comes back, he's going to have to work with somebody. I'm fine with Bobby Lashley being on that list. That's for sure. Brock's still got a couple of big losses that will do enough to help a talent. He hasn't lost too many times yet to where it's not a big deal anymore. I think it's still a big deal despite what Drew did to him at WrestleMania. I think if Brock can come back and, put someone over, all the better. Ryan Rhoda, you don't think anybody remembers Ricochet being U.S. champ? Guess what? I don't remember him being U.S. champ. I remember him being North American champ, but not U.S. Big J, you missed Saturday night's main event. They could put it on the network. They don't have Saturday night's main events on the network? I thought they did. They at least did it one time. I've got them all. I got every one of them, dude. I got them all. Yeah, I thought they were on there. Weird. Bummer. Maybe they took them off. Shit comes and goes. What do we have next on Raw? We had Miz TV with AJ Styles. There's a handicap match booked for tonight as well. Miz Morrison and AJ taking on Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Before they came out there, Keith Lee approached Sheamus backstage. They're really pushing hard this distrust of Sheamus. Most people think that Sheamus is going to wind up turning on his friend because he's a bad guy and Drew's a good guy, and of course they can't be friends. We had all been saying here on the stream and stuff that we were kind of hoping that they would drag this out as long as they could. I have no problem with a babyface and a heel being friends. That is fine. And I think that going through and pulling the trigger on the turn this quick isn't necessary. I thought they were going to maybe do a turn at Survivor Series. I actually predicted Sheamus coming in and accidentally bro kicking Drew McIntyre, allowing Roman to win and like kind of do it accidentally. You knew that spot was inevitable in some Drew McIntyre match, or if they ever did a tag team, Drew will eat a bro kick 100%. So that's what happened here. It's even though it's a handicap match, Drew and Sheamus are pretty dominant. And I didn't get to the match yet. We still got to do the Miz TV thing. This was just a setup for that, and it was stupid. So Miz and Morrison are out there. They're talking about TLC, and AJ Styles match with Drew. They bring AJ out there. He's got the big bodyguard. Sheamus then comes out to the ramp, and they make fun of his accent and shit and say, oh, you must not be good at math. There's 4 of us and only 1 of you. And then Drew comes out to give him some backup, looking pretty badass in his, tight muscle shirt and his kilt, and he's got the belt around his waist. At least he's wearing the belt. And he gets in the ring, and they talk some smack to each other on the mic, and Drew threatens Miz and Morrison and actually gets his hands on Miz's briefcase. And I had no idea that Drew possessed briefcase throwing skills. He threw this fucking thing like a frisbee. He made it all the way up to the entrance. From the ring to the entrance ramp. He just chucked that thing, and it went flying, and Miz goes chasing after it. My briefcase, my briefcase, my holds, my holds. It kind of reminded me of my holds when Miz was running over after the briefcase. So that was pretty funny, and that set up the match that would come, I think, at the top of the second hour later on. We had the 1,000,000% predictable match after last week. As soon as Cedric Alexander took on Xavier Woods, we knew we were going to get Kofi and Shelton this week. Of course, we did. Pretty good match here and a really cool finish. Kofi caught Shelton with a pretty gnarly Trouble in Paradise right to the side of the face. He went down like a ton of bricks and got the pin. Kofi won. There's a 50-50 booking. Cedric won last week. Kofi won this week. Cedric gets all pissed as New Day is leaving, gets on the mic and challenges Kofi to a second match. Face me, I'll put you down. I'm not an advantage that you've had a full match. This makes perfect sense. Kofi takes him up on it. They have a second match, and Cedric wins that. So they did 50-50 booking not only from last week to this week, but they did it tonight in one night. This fucking company. The show is too long. It does not need to be 3 hours long. They're just throwing shit at us. They're throwing ridiculous rematches, dumb impromptu matches, 45 minutes to an hour of replays and rehashes. It's just ridiculous. So anyway, that match now, I believe, is set for TLC, correct? It's going to be Hurt Business and New Day. I'm hoping that Hurt Business wins. I'm also curious if this is leading to anything specific for Cedric. He's been a little bit eccentric the past couple of weeks, even taking MVP and Shelton off guard a little bit. They kind of looked at each other like, what the fuck's his problem? Last week when he was all going crazy, acting like he won the title in the main event of WrestleMania, and then tonight being so brazen to challenge Kofi Kingston to a match. MVP and Shelton seem perfectly happy with his behavior this week, but he's definitely kind of not acting right, so we'll see if that will help or hurt them. Either his aggressiveness is going to take the lead and he's going to guide his team to the tag team championships at TLC, or that's going to be their undoing. I'm voting for the undoing. Makes me think that little tease of confusion and maybe disapproval maybe of MVP last week based on his behavior could be a little tease there that eventually they boot him out. Maybe they got a replacement for him or something. They want to get him out of there. I don't know. We'll see. But tag team title match is coming, and I want them to win the titles. I kind of want to see gold spread across the Hurt Business, even for a short amount of time. I think it would be cool to see that, to see Lashley and those two guys there and MVP in the middle. They look like badasses, man. So I kind of hope we get that. I took a shower during Morrison and Miz and AJ, Morrison, Miz, and AJ versus Sheamus and McIntyre, because I didn't want to come up on the stream and have to worry about you guys smelling me, my funk. So I went ahead and jumped in the shower while this match, but I can see my monitor from my shower, which is right over there. So I was trying to watch, and I caught the finish there where AJ pinned Sheamus with a phenomenal forearm after they did the spot that we all predicted, the bro kick by accident to Drew McIntyre. He goes down. AJ catches Sheamus with a forearm for the win and wins the match for his team. So they would then go to commercial. They would come back. They would go backstage, and you've got Sheamus and McIntyre coming face to face. And you guys got to help me here, because I saw the pull apart, or I saw the brawl, and then I saw the pull apart, but I couldn't hear what was said. So I don't know. I don't know who was in between them. It wasn't Adam Pearce. Was it Buck? Who the hell got in between them, and then they beat the shit out of him? I thought maybe he was making some sort of announcement about a match or something like that. So Sheamus and Drew came face to face backstage, and they even cut to commercial, I believe, before the brawl. Like, Drew said something to Sheamus like, you know what's coming. And then when you come back from commercial, they're beating the shit out of each other. So, this again, I just want it to make realistic sense. Sheamus gave Drew McIntyre a beautiful present. Unearthed some family heirlooms for him. Did a good thing. I've got close guy friends that have given I was a best man at a wedding. My friend gave me a nice, beautiful watch. I've got lots of guy friends who I've done nice things for or have done nice things for me. And if I wouldn't be in a bar fight, but if I was in like some sort of a bar brawl with my friend fighting side by side with him and he actually accidentally caught me with an elbow to the face, I'd forgive him. So I don't understand why they're all of a sudden these guys are wanting to rip each other's heads off now. That's why I thought it could be a slow thing, because I thought after Sheamus bro kicked Drew would like almost be okay with it. You know, like, accidents happen, whatever. But the fact that they're brawling already backstage is like, they did that quicker than I thought. So now, you know, is Sheamus going to play a role in the AJ match or whatever? So I thought Sheamus was gearing up. If they would have done the Survivor Series thing, I thought Sheamus would have been the one he faced at TLC, based on, you know, Sheamus costing him the match there. But now he's going to have AJ in front of him first, and then assumingly he's going to move on to Sheamus. And I'm really hoping that that's not a Rumble match or anything. Yeah, I suppose it could be, but Drew and Sheamus, is there really any drawing power there? Does anybody ever in this world want Sheamus to beat Drew McIntyre for the title? Even though Drew McIntyre is not considered one of the most over champions of all time, I don't think there's anybody that would prefer Sheamus over him. So, no, don't do that. Okay, yeah, I saw the pints going. I saw them throwing each other over the counter and everything. I just wasn't sure if Buck made an announcement or because I saw him holding them apart and then he was talking, but I couldn't hear him. So I was like, all right, enough of this. We're going to settle this next week, you versus him. I wasn't sure if any of that happened. So I guess not. That's good. Victor Colon, you did not. That's what we're talking about right now. Howdy, partner. What's going on, Sunny man? Chris, good to see you too. What's up, man? Just checking in, trying to ease my mind. We'll ease your mind here. Hope everything's all right. Hey, Ronnie Matthews, what's up? Greg, let me ask you something. When Keith Lee basically bringing up Sheamus possibly turning on Drew, do WWE give us a swerve and Keith Lee? I thought the same thing. I should have mentioned that. Does WWE give us a swerve and Keith Lee turns heel because Sheamus is too obvious and won't shock us? That's what I thought they might do here. I think anybody that accuses Sheamus of potentially turning might wind up turning themselves. And Lee, like I just talked about when I talked about his 24 doc, it's so underwhelming and disappointing almost when you watch something like that and you see what a waste of him they've made of him since coming to the main roster, when this guy should be contending for titles and be a contender for putting Brock down in the future. I mean, he's that big of a deal, I think, and that good. So maybe a heel turn is what he needs. It's kind of like Will Hobbs, sort of. It's hard to envision him that much of as a heel, although I think Keith Lee could do it. And it might be better for a big monster like that. And it would make much more sense for Keith Lee taking on Drew McIntyre now, because they've already done the babyface thing. We don't need to see that again. So for the sake of Lee's career, I almost hope that's an actual option. I hope that that's what they do, because that will give him a rebirth a little bit and give him a whole bunch of fresh set of opponents and some possible title matches now that he doesn't have to worry about a friendship with Drew McIntyre coming in the way. But now that Sheamus and Drew have also brawled with each other, I don't know. It might. I was hoping kind of what I would do, because you're right about the Sheamus thing being too obvious. What I was hoping they would do is do a deal where even the fans think it's inevitable that Sheamus is going to turn, but then he never does. He just remains loyal. We've had a couple of situations like that in wrestling before. Sasha and Bayley are probably the best example of that in recent history, where their turn came like a year after we thought it would. So, you know, they really drug it out. And this one, it felt like they kind of rushed or hot-shot it a little bit. So I don't know. But I thought the exact same thing. If they did that with Keith Lee, I'd be fine. I think Keith Lee has great potential as a babyface, but they've already had him on the roster now for a few months, and he's invisible. Somebody told me on Twitter tonight he worked main event. For real? The Jackson Riker show? Man, get Keith Lee on Raw where he belongs. What the hell? Barry, did you send that? Well, thank it to I Jerk It to Hornswoggle. Thank you for the $1.99. That's classy and graphic. Okay, so they kind of walked off laughing together. I thought so, because I knew they beat his ass together. So it's basically like, leave us alone, let us fight type of thing. So maybe they got that little spat out of their system. They fought it out, and now they're back to being bros. So you could essentially do the Keith Lee thing and keep Sheamus with him. And now Lee could approach him next week and say, I saw what you did. You Claymored him, or I'm sorry, you bro kicked him on purpose. you know, and then you guys fought backstage. You're so transparent, it's probably because you're so damn white, you're clear. We can see right through you kind of thing, and then Keith Lee winds up turning. I'm into that. I have no problem with that at all. Yeah, Sheamus could defeat McIntyre for the title at TLC like he did Cena, but McIntyre's already got a match, so he's going to have to find his way in there. I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know who's dead. Anyway, so we talked about the handicap match. Next up, we had Jeff Hardy taking on Bobby Lashley. This was a non-title match. Matt Riddle is back at it again. Jeff Hardy is, I think Lashley's already in the ring. Jeff's at Gorilla getting ready to go out. And Riddle approaches Hardy, and he's got his bro nuts. He's been carrying around his bro nuts all night. And he pitches some shit to Hardy, including the bro nuts. And he says that they should be they should form a tag team together. Not the Hardy Boys, but the Hardy Bros. Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Bros. Sounds great. And if I was Jeff Hardy, I would seriously consider taking Riddle up on his Matt upgrade offer. You know, if I had a choice to have a tag team partner of either Matt Hardy in 2020 or Matt Riddle in 2020, I'll take the second one, please. Champs instantly. And speaking of tag teams, I talked last night how I'm really kind of hoping that Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa form a tag team based on their brutal encounter last night and that little stare down they had with the two of each other on the ring apron there. And, you know, think about where Ciampa is in his career and all of his injuries. A tag team would be perfect for him. It would lighten his workload, possibly extend his career, give Thatcher something to do, put gold around both their waists, and beef up the tag team scene in NXT all at the same time. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think the Hardy Bros ain't a bad idea either. I could even see Matt dressing like the Hardys and shit. That would be pretty funny. So anyway, match starts happening. It's competitive, even though on paper Lashley should kill Jeff Hardy in about 5 seconds here. MVP's getting involved heavily in the match. That's when Riddle comes out to try to help out, and he's got the bro nuts with him. Brought his bro nuts with him, which is nice to share, you know, because sharing's nice. In the end, though, Lashley is able to counter everything. He locks Jeff Hardy in the full Nelson after hitting him with a vicious spear, and gets the win there. And I think MVP even grabbed the box of bro nuts and just started eating them. So that was pretty funny. Lashley got the victory there, which is good because when it was non-title, I was nervous. I was like, no, I don't. As much as I like Jeff Hardy, I do not want him scoring any sort of a clean victory over Bobby Lashley. I've been advocating hard for Lashley to go on a really dominant winning streak here. I'm not quite sure if that's going to happen with Matt Riddle on the horizon as his opponent. Riddle might take the title off of him. But if it was up to me, I would keep the U.S. title on Bobby Lashley until summer, you know, and give him a title shot at SummerSlam against whoever the champion is as U.S. champion. Like, give him a long run like that, undefeated. I've said time and time again, it might be their last chance they're going to get to salvage something out of Lashley and actually make him into a main eventer, which he should have been all along. So they got a chance to do that here. But now that they're putting Riddle in the program with him, it makes me somewhat skeptical that Bobby's going to hang on to that title for much longer. But it is what it is. We're then, I mean, it was a long show, but we're somehow all the way down to the main event now. You got Randy Orton in the locker room prior to the match getting ready. You hear all sorts of like funhouse sound effects and Ramblin' Rabbit. Randy like checks in the closet or something. Ramblin' Rabbit shows up and says that Bray Wyatt's really excited to see you in the ring or whatever. So they go to commercial. We come back. It's main event. Randy Orton versus Funhouse Bray Wyatt. Match goes on for a little while, maybe 10 or 12 minutes. You know, hard hitting. Just a pretty good preview of what we're going to see in 2 weeks at TLC. Nothing too crazy in the match, though. It's just a match. You get to the finish, and Randy Orton hits an RKO on Bray Wyatt and is about to pin him, you know, just for the clean, straight-up victory. And that's when the lights go out. And they're out for about 10 seconds or so. When they come back on, Randy Orton is now not covering Bray Wyatt anymore. He's covering the Fiend, who is now transformed into full Fiend gear. I thought that was pulled off relatively well, and he locks in the mandible claw on Randy Orton and puts him down, and that's when the show went off the air. The only thing I couldn't tell is if there was a winner. I don't think so, but I suppose Bray Wyatt could have won that match, right, if he locked in the claw, but I think the ref didn't make it a decision. I think the show just went off the air. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's how it ended. We didn't see Alexa Bliss at all. I thought when the lights went out, we would definitely see her, distracting Randy Orton or something like that. But I thought the transformation into the Fiend was pretty cool. This is the type of shit you can do, in a COVID era with a tape show in a Thunderdome. You can pull shit like this off. So it wouldn't work in a live environment. So I thought that was pretty good. And I wasn't too upset about the match. People, why are we getting that before TLC? I mean, technically, it's two different people or two different characters, Bray Wyatt and the Fiend. So it's okay with me. There's so much shit to complain about on Raw. I'm picking my battles and I'm letting that one slide because to me, there's so much other ridiculous nonsense on this show or on these shows that, something like that doesn't bother me too bad. I would have been mad. There's probably been times of this happening. I mean, I know that Royal Rumble that one year, but has there been instances of Mankind, Cactus Jack, or Dude Love having matches in one night? Like Dude Love having a match and then Mankind having another one? I'm sure there is. So it didn't bother me then. It ain't going to bother me now. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that one day we don't get corporate Fiend. Just think about the Fiend character and you think about how Kane was when he first came in. And all of his magical powers and his presence and his aura and his domination. And then, fast forward, 12, 15 years later, and he's a goddamn Staples manager. So let's hope that the same thing doesn't have to happen to the Fiend one day. And he's out there in slacks and a button-down shirt. So that pretty much does it. Let me go over here. I didn't write them down. Let me just pull up what we got here so far for the TLC card. I had it pulled up a minute ago. There we go. Here's what we got announced so far. Of course, we got AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre for the WWE title. Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler versus Asuka and Lana for the women's tag team titles. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. SmackDown title on the line. Women's title on the line. Sasha Banks versus Carmella. And Roman Reigns defending the Universal title against Kevin Owens. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're probably going to add Hurt Business and New Day. That'll be 6. They might add Lashley and the Fiend. And I bet you they will add, since we just talked about it, they'll probably add Keith Lee and Sheamus. How much you want to bet? Or you can do that on Raw. I suppose that doesn't have to be pay-per-view match. You could do that on Raw. But with Keith Lee approaching and accusing Sheamus tonight, then what happened, I think next week you're going to see another confrontation, and they're either going to set up a match at TLC or do it right on Monday Night Raw. That's my guess. So that'll probably bring us to 6, 7, possibly 8 matches. And I think a max that we're looking at is 9. Help me out. Fill me in. What else do you think they're going to add? What else is going on SmackDown? Are we going to get Bayley and Bianca Belair? We might. Yeah, by the way, I believe tonight was, I forgot to mention that as well. Tonight, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, was the last night of the Thunderdome, right? They're already setting up Tropicana Field for the new Thunderdome. I saw a picture of the construction of it, and I believe the first show is supposed to be a SmackDown, so we can only assume that will be this Friday. So yeah, I believe that was the last Thunderdome show. I think it was. Now we got a new Thunderdome, a Tropicana Field Thunderdome, which they'll have until baseball starts up again, and then we'll see, what winds up happening with any sort of live fans in the building, the Royal Rumble, things like that. It's going to be a bummer not to have fans in the Royal Rumble. That's going to put us, pretty much at the 1-year mark, although I think there was fans at Elimination Chamber, and I know AEW had them for Revolution. And after that, man, it was we're like almost a year into this. Can you believe that? A year of just dead shows with no fans and shit. And got to hand it to both companies, AEW and WWE. I thought have done well. I thought AEW was taking the lead at first. Looked like WWE was like deer in the headlights. They did not know what to do. And on top of that, it was WrestleMania time. Had this been happening like now, this time of year when there's not much going on, they might have been able to react better to it. But AEW, with their access to Daly's place and them setting it up and having, some of the talent around the ring, making noise and stuff, and, the hard cam focused on the aisleway and the entrance and the tunnels and all that. To me, they were leading the way on Pandemic Wrestling. WWE kind of fell behind and followed suit, but, WWE also has a lot more experience with big-time production and things like that, and it took them a few months, but they created the Thunderdome, and now I think WWE is doing things a little bit better than AEW, but they're both doing well despite these horrible circumstances I tried to watch a little bit of Impact because they don't have anybody at ringside, right? They're still doing the completely empty, dead shows. It's hard for me to watch that. It's not interesting, and it's certainly not fun. So I know piped in, this is awesome chants are stupid, but it's still better than what they did when it first happened. So I think under the circumstances, as wrestling fans, we could have had it a lot worse. That's for sure. But I think there's so many unanswered questions with next year, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. There's no way WrestleMania is going to be here in California. We just got hit with another stay-at-home order. I am sitting on my ass for a minimum of 3 weeks. I will not be back to work until the beginning of the year. I think I'm going to go in and help a little bit out on Christmas Eve, for some deliveries and takeouts and stuff. But for the most part, I'm going to be right here making videos on YouTube. So I can't see how we can be at a stay-home order at the beginning of January, because it's 3 weeks minimum. They can extend this. So be at home for the beginning of January, and then we expect to put thousands and thousands of people in LA for WrestleMania in April or late March, whenever it is. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. What a weird year. Yeah, and I was surprised that Tropicana Field was the siting for this, because it's huge, but they've kind of condensed it. They've surrounded it, and there's been a lot of. I remember the Detroit Pistons used to play basketball in the Silverdome back in the day before they had the arena. They'd just tarp it off and bleachers and the whole deal, so they can make it work in there. But they said that there's like a family of pigeons that live up on the fucking roof and shit. So they're gonna have all sorts of stuff to deal with. I think the noise factor is gonna be a little bit different in there and stuff. But whatever, we'll see. They need to go somewhere. And I'm curious how long this will last too. If this is just going to be a temporary thing, or sooner or later baseball is going to be starting up. But we got a little bit of time. I don't think there's going to be any games in Tropicana Field, actual regular season baseball games, for 4 months. December, January, February, and probably most of March. I don't know when the season starts. But WWE's got some time there before they're either going to have to switch venues, or hopefully they can maybe do some fans. I'm curious if this is going to be the last Thunderdome setup, or if they're going to have to do one more before fans come back, or if they're going to use these next couple of months to make a plan on what to do next. And maybe that is, because Florida is stupid, get some sort of a venue there where you can pack some people in, just a few, just like what AEW is doing. Big venue, 10,000 seat arena, put 500 people in there, just to create some. But then the visual aspect of that is gone if you try to do what AEW does, because I think WWE has got their Thunderdome and their laser show and all that shit is set up. It's going to be hard to do that with having fans so dramatically spread out all over the arena. I can't see how that's going to look any good. So they might just continue on with the Dome of Thunder. That is true, Chick Magnet Joe. I guess Impact is kind of used to empty shows, has been used to that for a while. But man, it's still worse. Do I have an audible for the Royal Rumble next month? You mean like in terms of what WWE's going to do? I think the only thing they can do is just do it in the Dome. It's got to do it in the Thunderdome and the Tropicana Dome. And then we're going to have the piped in countdown with everyone. 10, 9, 8. That's going to be so hokey to watch. And again, another letdown based on last year's just phenomenal Royal Rumble. And I was as a wrestling fan, I was really getting into the baseball stadiums as the Royal Rumble venues. Had we not had COVID, this is a tradition I'm hoping they make the new tradition. Like, do this literally for every single Royal Rumble. The way they set up the set and the entrance to have them come out of the dugout like that, it's awesome. And, it opens you up to go back to Safeco Field, which they haven't been at since WrestleMania 19. And it opens up the door for them to eventually come here to San Diego, which in January would be doable. It's still not, boiling hot or anything, but we could still have really good weather in the month of January. And if they hit it right, it should be a pleasurable, sunny day that should remain no lower than 50 degrees or high 40s at night at the most. And I think it could be pulled off if they got here. So, they could do, where was it planned to be this year? Last year was Houston. I forgot where it was planned to be this year. Was it Citi Field? I forgot. But then you can go, it just opens up the door for so much more, like Safeco, like Petco, like all sorts of places. And then pretty much any indoor stadium is a shoe-in for that. Yeah, what if the Rumble is able to have fans? Possible. And maybe WWE could do something now that they're in Tropicana Field. And they could have done this at Amway too. But I think you could possibly do a combination. You could do part Thunderdome, part fans. And WWE, their production people can set that up to look right. In my head, I'm like, how's that going to look? But WWE can figure it out. They clearly can. Some of the shit that we see them erect, for WrestleMania and some of the just ridiculous sets they do. This should be a walk in the park for them to figure that out. So I suppose if they're able to have some fans in the building, you could do a combination of both. But that would be interesting for the fans too, sitting right next to like a video wall of a person. You want to sip of my drink? I don't know how that would work. Gonna look weird, but weird times. Wow, last year's Royal Rumble was number 2 for you, behind 2010. There was very little about last year's Royal Rumble I did not like. I think the Edge return is going to be, burned onto my brain forever. That was just an amazing visual to see him come back, and I loved that McIntyre not only won and got himself a WrestleMania main event, but he eliminated Brock at the same time, and he eliminated Roman at the end of the match. So very much happy with the outcome last year and all the competitors and things like that. So I don't remember anything about 2010. Let me see. If I think real hard, I can think of who won. Don't tell me. 2010, that would have been... I always have to think about WrestleMania. That would have been WrestleMania 26. What the fuck were the title matches? Was it Edge and Jericho? It was a Shawn and Taker match. I don't even know what the hell it was. Was it Triple H and Sheamus maybe, but that wasn't for the title. Who won in 2010? I can't remember. Might have been Edge. Might have been Edge. Or did he come back and win the Chamber? I don't know. I give up. Help me. Who won in 2010? They got fans for... Were those fans? I thought they were just developmental people. I saw the one... Everybody's freaking out about the one girl in like the see-through shit or something. I didn't even notice her. I thought they were all Performance Center talent. I didn't realize they were actual fans. So yeah, you put them around the ringside area and they have the dome, because that's what they're doing currently in NXT. And I like their setup. I love that they got creative there with the PC, because after what we saw at WrestleMania and all the other Raws there and shit, it was just so bad. And the fact that they kind of have their own Thunderdome going around, and they've renamed it the Capitol Wrestling Center, which touches my heart greatly. And I think they have a really good setup there. And then everybody on the outside of the ring are making a shit ton of noise in there. So they have good atmosphere. It's a little bit more intimate, and I do like it. So it would probably be a situation like that maybe, where if there were fans, they would be maybe around the center, around the ring, and then you'd have the Thunderdome after them. And then after the Thunderdome, you might have sprinkle some more fans around maybe in the upper deck. Possibly. I don't know. Just don't know how that's going to work. Edge, thank you. It was Edge. I thought so. I knew it. He worked Jericho then, right? Wasn't that all tied into, like, they were tag champs, and then Edge had the Achilles, and he had to leave, and then he came back and they did the match? Something like that, right? Wasn't that part of it? Yeah, but I go to opening day a lot here in San Diego. I just can never remember exactly when it starts, if it was late April or early March, or late March, early April. That's right. That's right. Jericho won the title in the Chamber. That was the year Taker burned himself, right? At the Chamber. And then Jericho won. And that set up Jericho and Edge. Oh, yeah. Cena, Batista. Now I remember. And Cena got it. Cena won, because I think the Batista-Cena worked the SummerSlam prior, and Batista won. So you did the rematch. Just Brock and Triple H did the same thing. And then go to WrestleMania. Cena gets the win back, and then the next night on Raw, Batista quit and all that stuff, right? That's right. See, I just got to think a little bit, and it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Oh, okay. You were listening to Bustin' Open on Sirius. One of the callers said she was at TakeOver last night. Okay, that's cool. Speaking of podcasts, I haven't listened in a long time. I'm way over a year behind listening to any episodes of Something to Wrestle. but I really do want to check out the Pat Patterson episode, because there's not going to be too many people in the company that's going to be able to tell more stories about Pat than Bruce, maybe a couple. But Bruce is one of the best guys to tell stories, and wouldn't you know it, he's got a podcast where that's his fucking job. So I'm interested to hear that. I'm probably going to listen to that this week, because I was a big Pat Patterson fan. His death was one of those. His death was like a Mean Gene or Finkel to me. You know, just like, oh, you know, I can't imagine wrestling. I don't have a memory of wrestling without Pat Patterson in it, you know? So it's just, you know, he was such a big part of WWE after his in-ring career with everything that he did for him. And they did a really nice tribute to him as well. They did that on all 3 shows, NXT, SmackDown, and tonight. Not sure if I mentioned that at the beginning here, but they did the 10-bell salute with everybody on the stage again for the 3rd time, and they ran throughout the show. A lot of the same stuff we already saw on SmackDown. They did the nice the My Way video package with Sinatra, whoever the hell sings that, and all that stuff. They did that on all 3 shows. Very beautiful tribute to Pat. And WWE, they're, you know, this one hurt them. You can tell they went really all out to tribute Pat, because he was an inner circle, man. He was a family member there. He was responsible for so much. So yeah, his death fucking sucks, man. I wasn't ready for Pat to die. Yeah, Sean's retirement match was 2010. It's funny, like I do that with wrestling all the time. I use, like, my family members all think I have like an amazing memory because I'm really good at dates. Like, I remember when shit happened. Like, my parents would be like, my sisters will mention a childhood memory, and I'll be able to tell them and pinpoint exactly when that memory was, all the way down probably to the month and the year. And the way I can do that is I always use wrestling, because I really am good at like the WrestleManias. If I'm ever trying to think of a year, the first thing I say, okay, what WrestleMania was that? I'm like, okay, it was WrestleMania 14, and that would have been 1998, and I can like kind of detract from there. And that's how crazy of a wrestling fan I am, is that I can kind of use wrestling as a tool to remember other dates that have nothing to do with wrestling. I can just remember where I was, how old I was, or, you know, what was going on. I'll be able to, you know, remember it almost instantly. So I credit wrestling with a lot of that stuff. I just start with WrestleMania, work backwards, and I can usually figure it out. Yeah, Pat came up with the Royal Rumble, and Pat was also extremely instrumental in many, pretty much all WWE title match main events in the 90s, and a lot of pay-per-view main events. He was very instrumental in the careers of Brett and Shawn. I know he played a big hand, I think, in the Iron Man match, and worked with them closely a lot. And at the Canadian Stampede, the In Your House, you know, that big 10-man tag, Pat was right in the middle of that, producing and help laying that match out and stuff. You can see all that chronicled in Wrestling with Shadows and stuff. So Pat, you know, really had a knack for laying out a match. Like I said, he came up with the concept of the Royal Rumble. They did a dry run on the USA Network a year before going to pay-per-view, and it worked. And it's still a concept that's heavily used in WWE this day. It's one of our biggest stepping stones to get to WrestleMania, you know, 30 plus years after its creation, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So, you know, Pat was responsible for a lot, man. Yeah, Michael Campbell, I mean, people love to point fingers at Pritchard and everything, and McMahon and all that stuff, but a lot of the problems we see now are problems that we've seen way before Bruce even came back. They keep doing the same thing, like year after year. It's just the same fucking nonsense. So it's always misuse of talent. It's always head-scratching booking. Nothing makes any goddamn sense. And Bruce coming in, all he did was just fit into that system that was already in place. So he's just going with it. He's not, you know, you can't get brought in to be Vince McMahon's right-hand man and then just say, I want to have all my new ideas and do everything that I want to do. You know, Bruce does not have that power. It's still Vince's show, and they're still going to do this dumb shit, and it's just dumb, and it sucks. So yeah, you're right about that, but it's also not any problems that haven't already existed and haven't been there for 10, possibly even close to 15 years now. You know, I can remember around like 06 and 07, just shit just getting bad. And it just seems like it's been bad ever since. We've had some bright spots. We've had some good WrestleManias. We've had great Undertaker and Shawn Michaels matches, and we've had great retirements and great Hall of Fames and memorable moments and good Royal Rumbles and things like that here or there. But overall, the production of the television shows and the use of the talent, very little of it has made sense to me in the last decade or so. So that's just the way it is. They should, Victor Colon, they should do something at the Royal Rumble for Pat Patterson. I don't know what they would do. I don't think we necessarily need to see what we saw this past week with like the 10 bell salutes and all that stuff, but it might be cool for somebody in the ring to do it. Or maybe all the guys, keep it simple. Everybody in the Royal Rumble wear a Pat armband. Something as simple as that would make me happy. He didn't really have any theme music when he was a wrestler, so I thought it would be fun if somebody could come out to some song, but they could do one of his karaoke songs or come out to Real American like he used to do with Briscoe in the Attitude Era. Maybe something like that, but otherwise I think armbands might be the way to go, or maybe I don't know, maybe some sort of just a dedication to him. This year's Royal Rumble will be dedicated to Pat Patterson. Maybe a nice little video package showing and chronicling Pat's creation of the Royal Rumble and some of the better moments that they've had. Maybe have a little silhouette or a hologram or something of him in the background during the Rumble match. Anything like that would be cool, to me. I'd be totally into that. Totally into that. What's up, Deshaun? Thanks again, man, for $5 more. I appreciate that. AEW announced Shaq will address the fans Wednesday. Also, I recently listened to the After the Bell podcast with Charles Robinson. I recommend it. Yeah. Charles Robinson has a lot of stories, man. A lot of stories. I know a couple of people that have that kind of know him a little bit. That's an interesting one. I've never listened to any of Corey's podcasts because Corey makes me barf, but I'll check that one out for sure because Little Nate has got some stories to tell. Kevin, we talked about Becky Lynch a little bit while ago. She, of course, gave birth to Baby Roo today, and to me, it depends on her. I suppose I ain't a woman. I've never had my lower unit torn apart by a kid before, so I don't know how long it takes to recoup, but I would think that 4 months, based on somebody like Becky who's young and who's an athlete and is capable of rehabbing and, and coming back, could probably pull it off, provided she wants to. She's also a brand new mom, so you might not want to just focus completely on returning to the ring when you got a brand new baby at home. So if Becky chooses to take most of 2021 off, I ain't going to blame her for that at all. The longer she stays gone, the cooler it's going to be when she comes back. So I feel like she could get back and actually have a match at WrestleMania if she wanted to, I think. But again, I'm no doctor. But I also think that she could hold out and wait. And I might be in, it's her life. Her and Seth can do whatever the fuck they want. It's not my place. If it was me, I would not try to come back by WrestleMania. That would be, you just have to put a lot of work into that. You have to rehab and you got to train and you got to get back, you shake off the ring rust and you got to do a whole bunch of stuff and really focus on that when you got a brand new little human being that you should also be focusing on as well. So it just depends on how they balance their life and what they want to do. But when it comes to stuff like that, I think every person has their own right to choose whatever they want to do there. So whatever Becky does, she ain't getting criticisms out of me. I'm not going to judge her as a person, as a parent, as a mother, nothing like that. Whatever she wants to do, I say do it. And I'm fine with it. So I don't know. Basically, it's up to her. Up to her. I don't know if she'd consider retiring altogether. I doubt it. I think people can have children and still work in the business. She's young. She'll retire one day. She's not going to wrestle forever. Plus, you got a shelf life when you're a wrestler. You got to wrestle when you're young. So maybe she just wants to come back for a couple more years, put a few more million in the bank, call it a day. But I don't. Unless she really just wants to be a mom and have another kid like immediately, unless that's Seth and Becky's plan is to like build a family, then maybe she does. But again, it's all up. I don't know. I'm not inside of Becky's head. I don't know what the hell the two of them want. So whatever they want, they can have. Oh yeah. Pat and Jerry came out to the DX music. I remember the first time they came out on Raw to the Real American stuff. I laughed my ass off, and they're doing the poses and everything. Those two guys were so funny together because the Stooges of Vince, they just fucking walked around and kissed his ass. And Briscoe, would you like any coffee, Mr. McMahon? And Pat, they'd argue over who goes and gets some of the coffee, and then they feuded a little bit. They had that like evening gown hardcore match, which was insane. Speaking of Pat too, you should go on and watch it on the network right now. It's up there. They kind of got like a Pat Patterson collection. And one of them, and I've never seen this in its entirety, is the 1996 Hall of Fame banquet. They did it the night before Survivor Series in 96 in New York. because Survivor Series went at Madison Square Garden. Snuka went into the Hall of Fame that night, and he actually appeared as a mystery partner at the pay-per-view the next day. And I've seen tons of clips from that event of everybody getting inducted. But like it was like the Valiant Brothers. It was Pat. I got to think of who else it was. Shit, there was a bunch of them. Now I can't think of who they are. Not Slaughter. Killer Kowalski was another one. There's a bunch of them. Anyway, I watched it the other night, and it was really cool. I like the Hall of Fame setup in recent years. I didn't so much like it the last time we saw it, the year that Bret Hart got tackled. I thought that setup looked like shit. But much like the Slammy Awards, I really kind of miss the old days of just, having the panel up there and everybody at banquet tables having dinner and all that stuff. It was very cool, and it was a huge, packed house for that, and they did film it, but I don't recall them ever airing that anywhere on like the USA Network or anything back in the day. I think it was never released. I don't even recall a Coliseum video on that, because they didn't really do that back in the day. When they put Andre in, and then when they did the banquet in '94, where they put a lot of the really old school legends in, none of that was aired for television at all. But this thing was filmed pretty well, and it was cool. Bret Hart inducted Pat Patterson, and of course he was just coming back. Shawn Michaels was the WWE champion at that point, and Pat told a lot of good stories and made fun of a lot of people that were there. In the front row, you had Vince, and Vince McMahon Sr.'s wife, who was still alive at the time, was there as well, along with Shane. Stephanie and Linda were sitting down in the audience. They were both referenced a lot of times. It was very cool to see that stuff. So if you want to check that out, it's an interesting watch, and it'll show you a lot of old school people from back in the day. Oh, yeah, and Gorilla Monsoon. Yeah, Gorilla Monsoon, Snuka, Kowalski, Pat. I know there's more. Johnny Rodz was on the panel. I don't think he was in the Valiant Brothers, Luscious and Boogie. And then Rodz was there, I think, to induct someone, not getting inducted himself. I'm trying to think if I missed anybody. Triple H put Kowalski in. That was kind of cool. So it's awesome. It's a good watch. Check it out. And I don't know if a full-blown version of this does exist somewhere, but prior to me watching it the other day on the network, I had not seen that ever. So that was fun. See if there's anything else in the chat to discuss here. All right, we can discuss anything else you want. Otherwise, I'm going to bail up on out of here. At least we got 100 people in here tonight. That's not bad. We had under 100 for the Wargames review last night. I don't know what's going on with this channel, man. Got to beef it back up. Let's see, I got all that done. Got that. Okay, yeah, my notes are done. I can clear these because I have got nothing else to say in terms of that. What's coming up this week? We got a big Wednesday Night Dynamite. Shaq is going to be there. That was funny. You know how they did the fake Razor and fake Diesel? AJ's got that giant ass bodyguard with him. They should make him the fake Shaq. Oh, that's cool. Transferring Heat podcast. You found some cool stuff on YouTube this weekend on Pat. Found a match with him and Ray Stevens. They were one of my favorite tag teams ever. I'm a huge Ray Stevens fan. When it comes to wrestlers from like the 70s, I like Billy Robinson and I like Ray Stevens. They are two of my favorite of all time. And Stevens and Patterson was a great team. And you found some 8mm footage of 8mm film of Pat in San Francisco from 71 to 73. When my dad passed away almost 2 years ago now, we cleaned out his house and everything, and I got just boxes of his personal stuff. And going through that was just crazy to see all the pictures and, finding pictures of myself that I didn't even know existed and pictures of him and all of his time, serving in the Army and stuff. And he also had tons of 8mm film. A lot of it probably contains baby footage of me. And so I'm working right now on looking into getting that stuff converted over to actual media that I can put on a hard drive or a CD or something, or a DVD. Very cool. I'm old enough to remember those things. We had one of those projectors back in the day. And of course, there's no sound on those either. So, man, that's old school shit right there. But no, Stevens and Patterson were great, especially in the AWA. You can find footage of them all over the place. Watch some Stevens and Patterson matches, and you watch how the Crippler moves, man. He is fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I got Stone Cold's IPA. They're right behind me. I got a whole case of it delivered. I didn't want to have one open tonight. I still had a Stella in there, and I want to drink kind of light. But I'm going to crack open these here very shortly. We're going to do a live stream, just hang out one night, and kick back some beers and opening up some cards. And I am going to do, by the way, I thought I mentioned this in the beginning. I think I forgot. So the plan, I don't know what exactly my plan at work is going to be. I'm assuming, like, technically the 3-week stay-at-home order ends prior to New Year's. I think it's going to be extended beyond that, I would think. But if it doesn't, then I'll kind of be booked for New Year's. So depending on what happens there, and depending on what happens anyway, I'm definitely going to do a year-end Q&A. We usually do that every year. It's a lot of fun. If my restaurant is closed on New Year's Eve, I got nowhere to go. Champagne, boom, right here with all of you guys. We'll ring in the new year together. We'll do a big Q&A, and that'll be a lot of fun. If for any reason I am working that night and we are going to be open, then I'll do it the day before, or I'll pick a date. I'll do it like the 28th, 29th, and 30th, one day in there, and that'll be kind of like the final video of the year. And like I said, if it turns out that on New Year's Eve I'll be home, I'll just do it then. So if you want to start sending me your questions, send them to my email, goodmikework@gmail.com. You can send me questions over there. And that's probably where we'll just do it for right now. And then the night of the Q&A, I'll, have dumped a bunch of those questions into a document, but I'll also answer lots of questions in the chat. I'll answer all the super chats, that kind of thing. We'll hang out. We'll have a grand old time on New Year's Eve. And maybe I'll crack open some bubbly. I still got Jericho bubbly up there that maybe I'll open for... I might have to get better stuff than that. I might have to go pick up some Veuve Clicquot or something like that, or some Perrier Jouet, or Dom Perignon, or Schramsberg, or something better than that. But we'll hang out, we'll drink, we'll send off the new year right, just like we do every year. But just stay tuned on the exact date on that. But go ahead and start sending me your questions now. I'll put social media posts up as well on the Book of Face and the Twitter, letting you guys know what to do with all that stuff. So, yeah, he looks like a good... I mean, the fact that anybody's taller than Shaq blows my mind. Yeah, there's been some talk about Tessa coming into WWE. I wouldn't be surprised. She still is on a lot of people's shit list. We'll see what goes on for her. She's not somebody, though, that I think... Not based on what we've seen and what we've heard. She's not somebody, I don't think, that's really done enough damage that's going to blacklist her from any company. I think she'll get picked up. She'll be signed, maybe by AEW, maybe by WWE, based on some of her behavioral problems and her attitude problems and how she's really kind of rubbed some other women the wrong way. Maybe the NXT environment is a little bit better for her. It's structured. There's a lot of legends there. There's a lot of, people who can, kind of keep your attitude and your ego and shit like that in check. Where when you're off on the independents and stuff, it's just crazy. You can do whatever you want. So might be better. One of the videos that I had planned to do, Zane, is I was going to do a 3-way taste test. I was going to buy, after I bought the Stone Cold IPA, which with shipping, only a 12-pack of that cost me $70. But it was worth it. I just want to get some in the house. If I ever want it again, I'll go searching around San Diego because I think it is here some places. I just didn't want to traipse all over town looking for it. So I spent ridiculous amount of money on it. But I'm like, oh, it'll be good. It's for the purposes of a video, and it's all a wash anyway, so it's not a big deal. But my original video plan was to take the Broken Skull IPA, Jericho's Bubbly, and a bottle of the Undertaker wine, and taste all three of them, kind of do like a taste test and, showcase the 3 wrestling beverages that are currently out there. I think there's some Ultimate Warrior wine too, but I think it's the same as the Undertaker one. So when I went on the site to buy the Undertaker wine, it's $50 a bottle. And I've been in the restaurant business my whole life. I've been surrounded by great wine my whole life. I know what good wine is, and this Undertaker shit ain't good wine. I'm not sure which winery produces it, but it ain't $50. The liquid inside of that bottle should not cost you any more than $10 at a grocery store, is what my thinking is. So the $50 didn't bother me, but they have a 2-bottle minimum. So you got to spend a minimum of $100, and I kind of just drew the line. I'm like, all right, that's stupid. I'm not going to pay $100 for $20 worth of wine. That's just ridiculous. Plus, when I already dropped $70 on the IPA. So I kind of abandoned my idea of doing the 3-way taste test, and instead, I'm just going to open up some of these trading cards maybe next week. I I gotta find a day for that and do it, and we'll do it late at night, kind of like this. And I'll just sit here in the fucking dark and open cards, and I'll have two cameras. Maybe I'll set up two cameras to where I can have one camera on my hands, showing the cards, and I can hold them up to the camera, and I'll drink a couple of IPAs. We'll hang out. We'll have no script for this, no rhyme or reason. We'll just do it. Fun holiday stream. Give some people something to do and something to watch during stay-at-home orders and social distancing and not being able to do jack shit because of COVID. Whatever all of your holiday plans are, I hope they're not screwed up too terribly by COVID. And luckily, all my immediate family lives here, so I will be able to see them. But if you're traveling or if you decided not to travel, I'm sorry that that happened to you. Yeah, I've heard good things about his IPA. I drink a lot of IPAs anyway, generally, and I like them a lot. So, and we got great ones here in San Diego. As a matter of fact, the Stone Cold should have gotten. He got El Segundo, I think, to do his. He should have gotten the Stone Brewery. We have Stone Brewery here in San Diego. I actually know the owner of it, and they would have been a perfect person to produce Stone Cold IPA, you would think, and they'd probably do a pretty good job. But yeah, I'm excited to try it. I've had the 12 cans sitting in my house here, and I haven't drank one of them yet. So. I haven't even put one in the fridge yet, so I got to do that. And we'll start sucking them down. Yeah, I'll do a New Year's giveaway. I got to think about what to give away, but I'll definitely do one. I'll buy something off Amazon and give it away. Man, if it was back in the old days of some of the numbers we used to get on this channel and some of the traffic we used to get, I'd be perfectly fine going online, buying a replica belt and giving it away. But I don't want to do that if only 60 people are going to be in the fucking chat. So, we'll see. Definitely a giveaway is a good idea, though. I'd like to do that. Gave away a couple of computer speakers a few weeks back that I had laying around. So, yeah, we'll try to look into some of that stuff, too. Okay, waiting till after the pandemic. That's probably smart. If I was a wrestler that, I'd probably do the same thing. I don't want to be out there anyway. I mean, even though I'm a little bit uneasy about not currently working right now, I'll be kept afloat by YouTube and the unemployment. It'll be fine for 3 weeks, but it still makes me uneasy to be at work because I'm around so many people. I'm surrounded by motherfuckers all day. So how I haven't caught this thing yet, I have no idea. How I haven't caught it or infected somebody else, I suppose it's because I'm immortal. I mean, what other explanation is there, really? It's got to be that. But I can't say that I'm that disappointed about being home right now because every time I go to work, I work in a very rich part of San Diego where people with too much money for their own good live, and a lot of them are too rich to be bothered by pandemics. And so they're selfish and self-centered. And so even though they're coming out and they're giving us business, the masks, they'll wear them when they come in, but then they're off and you're still very close to them and they don't seem to give a shit, about themselves or you or whatever. So sometimes it gets a little bit old that, I'm around people and they don't seem to understand social distancing. I've had a customer come right up to me and ask me a question, and like the close talker on Seinfeld got right in my face. I'm like, back up, bro. Don't breathe in my fucking face, asshole. I think it's just part just stupidity and also part just brain farting that you kind of briefly forget that you're in a pandemic. I've walked into a store twice, months after COVID has happened, months after I'm accustomed to putting a mask on. I just get out of my car and walk out of the car and start walking towards the store. I'm like, oh fuck, my mask, So it does happen, but some people, in my line of work are a little bit just too ridiculous about it, and it feels unsafe sometimes, especially when we're busy. When that stay-at-home order hit, we were crazy packed on Saturday night because everybody was trying to come out and get those final drinks in, get that final partying in. And we were really, really busy. Customers were also very awesome, really hitting the staff hard with some kick-ass sympathy tips. One girl got $1,000 off of Four Top, because they're regulars and they're here all the time. They felt bad for us. And here's $1,000 for you. Pay your rent. So people can be good and people can be generous, but, people can also be selfish at the same time. And I noticed that a lot on Saturday that, man, these people, hey, there's a stay-at-home order come, and they all just flock to restaurants. That's like the last thing I would do. I know it sucks that you can't go to Chili's, but fuck, that's just what you got to do, man. It's just reality. The baldness defects COVID. Probably does. It's either that or the immortalness. It's one of those two. I'm not sure which one. Michael, you're going to be sucking down some bourbon on New Year's Eve. All right. I'm not a bourbon fan. I will do my friends a lot like wrestlers. It's like their shot of choice is always, you know, some sort of a bourbon or a whiskey. Sometimes it's something as simple as Jack, and you know, sometimes it's other stuff. Like our bourbon list, we got everything. We got Whistle Pig, Templeton, Blanton's, shit. All the good ones. Can't think of them now, but we got like 20 fucking bourbons on our list. And some of those are really nice, but I still don't care for it. I don't like bourbon. So on a special occasion, I'll do a shot of Jack or something like that, but I really don't enjoy it. And just when you get older, just shots become harder. Just drinking straight liquor becomes a little bit harder. And that's kind of why I just, you know, kind of stick to sipping on beer these days. But I was never really got into bourbon. I can drink a little bit of tequila. I don't really drink vodka or gin either. If I'm going to drink any sort of liquor drink, it's probably going to be a tequila or a margarita or something. I saw that. They are thinking about putting Charlotte and Andrade together as an on-screen pair. Are they engaged yet, or they're still together? I guess I'm fine with it. Andrade's doing nothing. Charlotte might help bring him up for all we know. I mean, Andrade seems like another guy. While he's done a few things on the main roster and had some decent matches, again, he's another guy just completely lost. NXT champion, you know, came onto the main roster, didn't do shit. So if they start putting him with Charlotte, I suppose that's all right. But then they're going to have to feud with a male and female duo, and I don't know. I can see them being an on-screen, like acknowledging their relationship maybe on screen. Not necessarily they're both out there at ringside for each one of their matches, but that might be what they do. They're engaged. Thank you for that. So, I don't know. I guess I'm indifferent to that idea. I don't want, you know, Charlotte. I defend Charlotte. I will always have Charlotte's back, just like I do Cena and Roman. I fucking promise you, I was right about Cena, and I said 10 years ago, I said, I will promise you, one day when he is gone, these rabid, psycho, immature, pent-up virgin fans that hate his guts so much are going to turn the corner on him. And they did, you know. So, and now the same thing's happened with Roman Reigns. So the same thing will happen with Charlotte. There will be a time when she will be on her way out and start being phased out. She'll go into the Hall of Fame, and everybody will give her the standing ovation that she deserves, because that's the way fans are. They're fickle as fuck. So all the hatred towards her now will dissipate in the future, but the hatred towards her is still extremely irrational and still extremely strong. And I worry that that could affect negatively Andrade if they paired them up. So they better think it through on that one if that's something they choose to do, because we don't want to see Andrade, who's just a phenomenal worker, being shoved down any further than he already is. Oh, God, I was not aware of that. What do you mean baby scare? The hell's baby scare? She didn't get pregnant, did she? Oh, yeah, I was just about to say, too. I was about to say that I was almost disappointed that they didn't even give Andrade the U.S. title, but they did. That's right. He did win in MSG. Did he beat Ray? How long did he hold that for? He dropped it soon after. So, yeah, contact Stella. Tell him to sponsor me. I drink this Stella primarily to one of my best friends back home in North Carolina. We would always go out, and we worked together for years, and we would always go out drinking. But like I said, I was always just a lot like Stone Cold. I just drink beer. You know, like I'll drink some drinks or some wine or some champagne or do a shot on a special occasion. Otherwise, if I'm out with my friends, give me a beer, let me sip on it. That's cool. But she's a beer snob and, you know, really likes beer and stuff. And I used to always drink like Coors Lights or something. There's some sort of light beer, Coronas or whatever. And she's like, you gotta branch out, dude. Like, at least drink Stella. At least it's a little bit stronger. So I was like, okay, I'll drink Stella. And I also drink like IPAs and stuff, but not for casual drinking. Like if I'm having an all-day drinking or if I'm at the beach for hours and hours and hours, instead of now getting like the cheap domestic, you know, just light beer here, I've upgraded to Stella. And I've been drinking this now for about 12 or 13 years maybe. Aside from, you know, when I'm out to dinner or just going to go out and have one drink or one beer, then I'll drink an IPA or something heavier. But if I'm doing some long-term drinking, Stella. Yeah, Kevin, I'll drink tequila, but not much of it. Tequila also just gets to me pretty quick. You know, people always crap on WWE and how many people they've lost in the last couple of years. I mean, the biggest knock on WWE is, you know, even with the people they lose, their talent is ridiculous. Like, how can you have all of this talent there, so much talent, that you have guys that could easily be contending for world titles not being used on the show at all? How can you manage to not get any of them over? That's, to me, what blows my mind. You know, how can you misuse an Aleister Black? How can you misuse a Keith Lee? How can you misuse a Shinsuke Nakamura? I mean, for motherfuck. Yeah, it was a short run for him. I remember when he took the U.S. title, it was off of him rather quickly. So, yeah, I remember that. Kind of forgot. You would love to chug a beer with Ric Flair. I don't think Ric Flair drinks beer. He's a liquor guy. He's like Mean Gene. So Ric Flair drinks the kamikazes. That's such a pussy move, too. Because wrestlers don't drink kamikazes. You drink Jack. You don't drink kamikaze. It's what a chick drinks. I've had a kamikaze. They're good. You know, but if you want to tout yourself as being a big drinker, you don't want to be bragging that you drink kamikazes. I miss the Becky and Ronda stuff. I wish we could go back. I think one of my favorite segments in modern history was the whole deal backstage with Charlotte and Ronda and Becky, and they're kicking out the cop car windows and everything. That was fabulous. I loved it. All right, anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up for tonight. I stayed up a little bit longer than I had expected. I am going to go downstairs and cook myself a magnificent dinner. So I'm going to do that and work on some YouTube stuff for the rest of the night. And in the meantime, I don't have plans to be up here until Saturday, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see me sometime between now and Saturday. So just kind of stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, like I said. Keep your eye on it. Smash the thumbs up button out the door. And I will catch you guys in just a few days for what will probably be a pretty loaded podcast on Saturday. Lots to talk about. And, you know, AEW, NXT, Fallout from Wargames. We got Shaq appearing on Dynamite. And we got SmackDown coming up from Tropicana Field this Friday. And then it's one more week and we're into the go-home shows for TLC. So should be plenty of stuff to talk about this week. So stick around and join me this weekend for more fun on the channel. Y'all be good. Have a great rest of your Monday night, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.